We are right here with Artem, and he's from a unit called Odin, like the god, not Odin, Odin. And who are you and what do you do? What is your position?
It's like really hard to tell because it's changed over time from the start of the invasion. But basically, right now I'm mostly working with within our unit for getting more recruits and expanding the unit as we are right now on the rotation and like renew the unit and doing all this kind of stuff. So basically, I'm like working with the papers, finding recruits, and also it's like, I don't know, you can call it like a sidekick. I'm working with the international volunteers in our unit and just in general, like having the contacts and trying to get more international recruits into the unit.
But if you say getting recruits, does that mean you try to get Ukrainian volunteers to join, or?
Yeah.
So it's not like a forceful mobilization, it's all volunteer based?
You mean in general in Ukraine or in our unit?
In your units?
Yeah, so the thing is like you kind of like allowed to take more people that you know because there's different stuff. The unit itself is from 2013-14, so basically it was assembled back then, but only right now it like just formed into a unit itself because when invasion started, we just like gather up and just go with it. We just like got some guns, got some stuff because it was total chaos. And we worked like that for nearly 4 months, like working with the Ukrainian military. Only later we officialized, so basically got the papers and integrated into military forces of Ukraine.
So Odin was like a volunteer formed group which was integrated into the army later?
Yes. And in 2014 we basically were fully a volunteer unit inside, I think it was right sector back in the day.
Okay, and 2014 when Crimea was occupied, of course, where did Odin fight then?
It was Pesky near Donetsk, the closest town to Donetsk.
And were you fighting back then also on the front line actually?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you recall any battle situations that you really remember? And
I mean, there's so much stuff. It's like 9 years, and right now you have all this new stuff. There's like so much. There are different things. We mostly do like recon. So reconnaissance is our main unit thing. It's like at the start, of course, back in 2014, it was more of a we needed to move, and then the line just stopped basically, and this is where we just changed our profile to doing more reconnaissance and things like that, doing some intelligence. And back in the days, I just remember if we go back, I just think about it like, how did we operate without drones?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you, did you have drones back then, or?
It was like really rare. It only was just starting, and someone somewhere heard about like people using drones. Of course, we had cameras and stuff like static things, but the drones were not back in then. And just like going back to that thinking right now, how we use the drones, how we utilize them, I'm just like, it's just insane the difference. How you kind of like we think it like we just go in there not knowing anything, like we just looked at some maps and just visualize stuff, and then you kind of like going in there. Right now you can fly with the drone can like go with you, you have all this recon information, and you kind of can be more prepared, but it goes both ways, you know.
But I mean, these drones right now, they really save lives, because I would imagine 2014 recon missions, you would really physically have to go and visually see. And now with the drone, you can just stay 1 kilometer back and...
Yes. It's still better, like, so to say, walk with your own feet, and it's what you mostly will do. But in general, it just gives so much more information. You can work it with the artillery, you can work it with armored vehicles, with tanks, anything, and just in general, you get much more information and be more prepared. Like what's enemy having there, how many people are there, what are their defense units, and like what they have. Do they have ammunition and things like that? Where back in the day, it was more of a like going in blind and just like treading it, like trying it out and understanding what you're up against.
So if you, for example, you want to relay some artillery coordinations to the crews, you have radios with you, right?
Yes, of course, all the time.
And is the coordinates, do you read them from the drone screen, or is the drone able to relay them automatically to the...
I haven't heard about like relaying it automatically. Probably it's technically possible, but most of the times, of course, you just tell the information And also there is the things that it should be checked, double checked. Most of the times you will need to either send video, or if you're like working in the moment, you just on the radio, if you're working for the information you can get, you just relay it later on with both with the video for them to actually know that this is where the enemy is.
So let's say you're out with the crew, you notice 3 BMPs, 1, 2, 3. Is that enough to order an artillery mission on it? Or do you have some sizes of Russian units that's, okay, we're going to order it, we're not going to order it?
Most of the times it depends on everything that's happening in the sector of work. So we always relay the information. So, but of course the decision lie with the guy like who's responsible for the sector, and it depends if there is enough ammunition. What's actually happening? So if they're like preparing an assault, or it's defense, or they already on the move. So it depends if it makes sense to reveal where artillery positions, because whenever you shoot, you basically reveal in your positions, like do they have like backup positions, what's the best sake. So it also depends on a lot of factors, but of course most of the time we just give the information and like trying to have an artillery strike there. This is something that happened basically in Irpin in the early time when we were on the position called Giraffe. Was one of the forward positions in Irpin, basically like where there was crossing to Bucha, and there was this like crossing, and they were having BMPs and stuff just swarming to that. They had 1 tank. So what happened there is our guy on the drone said like, hey, there is like 3 or 5 BMPs. We're kind of like relaying, gathering this information, trying to get a hold on some artillery. And then there a tank rolls up in the middle of the road, and suddenly like we don't have any like anti-tank weaponry back then. We only, like the Teroborona has only like PKM and things like that. And we're like, how will we like help this position? What can we do? And then our tanks rolls out from a corner, around the corner, just shoots the tank. It starts burning, but our tank also got a hit, and their barrel is not moving anymore. So like the tank guys just coming up and saying like, hey, we have this problem, and our commander just asking if is it able to like aim, do something? They're like, no. And he's like, so what are you doing here? Jump in the tank and like get out of here. Because it's a tank. You can lose a tank. And that's where after that, where the drone guys just say like, hey, there's 8 now, and then 10, and then 13. So basically there's just like
BMPs 13. Oh my god.
Yeah, they like gathering up these forces and just like to swarm the middle of the town. So we kind of like starting calling, trying to get hold of some artillery. We found, I think it was Azov artillery or something like that. And they say like, yeah, we're ready. Like we're giving them the coordinates, and we say we're ready to do the
fire corrections.
Yeah, fire corrections. And then we hear the grads working, and we're like, what's happening? And then the artillery calls us back and say like, the moment we started just rolling out, we got like covered with grads. And this is where we're like trying to, so they say like, we can't work right now because we got shelled with grads and they know our position. So we kind of like trying to find another artillery. They like started moving back and forth. They're trying to force this, how we call it, the bridge, basically the start of the bridge where the tank is burned. The road is really like, broad, so it's not the problem that they have a burning tank in the middle, so they kind of like have enough space to cross it. And that's where I think our commander get hold of some artillery, and they started shooting. It was not really precise because we didn't know that guys, a lot of times there was just like you find a contact, you try to hold on it and just relay them information, because information is the key. And a lot of times you know and see how outdated information is basically like holding you back and other units in terms of understanding what's actually happening.
The BMPs were at that moment already moving, right?
Yeah, they were like gathering up. It was not sure what they were actually doing or thinking. And then when they started like rolling, we tried as hard as possible, and we found some artillery. They started shelling our drone guy. We started relaying information. It was not like precise fire, but it was enough like to hold them back. And I think it was like 1 hour, 2 maybe 1.5 hour, not more, I think, where they just decided to abandon that idea because, the bridge is too thin for them to be really safe with the artillery fire.
But were you able to correct the fire onto the BMPs?
Yeah. There was like close hits, but there was no direct hits. But it was enough probably just to
scare them away.
Put them away, because they knew that probably if they move on the bridge, it will be just easier to correct the fire on them, as they were like spread around in all this like kind of tree lines, and like there's this small river and stuff. So
it's so weird. I see those videos also, these 15 or 20 BMPs all together to each other. Like it's a perfect target. Why do they do it? I ask myself that. What do you think? Why Russians do this?
It's like there are a lot of questions about what they do. A lot of people think and say like that their military is weak and stuff like that, but they have strong sides, they have weak sides as any military, and probably their strongest side is like they doing things by the book. So everything they train is unified. So basically it has a unification of like training, doing stuff. So if they have this descent, like airborne, they just like jump out and immediately they fall and start digging all this stuff. It's just like immediate, they like a reflex. So they doing all this kind of stuff. It's predictable at a degree, at a certain point, but it also works. And this is the problem we're facing right now. So basically at the start there was like a clash of a big USSR army against a small USSR army, and this is where you understand that like the big USSR army will win against the small USSR army. There where we need to adapt and do the changes, because the numbers and the odds are not in our
against you.
Stacked against us. So we have to make some advances, and we need to understand how to adapt and change the things. And why they group up is basically that's the most common tactics that they have, like this how you call it, a fist of armor, just going, penetrating stuff. And in general they get so close probably because they just have not enough training to understand like how to do the proper stretching and stuff, but they still adapted. It's not as bad as it was at the start.
I haven't seen any videos of them doing it now, actually.
But this is also the question if they adapted or they just can't do it anymore.
Because they don't have enough armor.
They don't have enough armor, and there was a thing there. They basically were making advances with the backup lines, so they had all the logistics and stuff back them up. But the other thing is their logistics is mostly rail. They don't have roads as we have in Ukraine. We have like a lot of roads and stuff. We still use the rail, and it's also really efficient way. But because Russia is so big, they have this rail thing where everything, and especially like tanks, BMPs, any armored vehicles, is done by rail. This is the most efficient and probably the only way they can do it. So they kind of like railing it out. And because we disrupted their backup lines, and it was showing, and because it's, if you look on the map, they always try to capture the main
railway hubs.
And there is a reason. That's why they always strategical for them whenever they try to assault and take over the region. It's mostly like a place where you have this rail, and this is because they using all the backup lines is just by the rail. They don't really use the roads. And
I mean, they lost a lot of trucks at the beginning of 3 months. I mean, I think Ukrainian army was especially targeting Russian logistics trucks.
Yes. It was the biggest targets. It was the most important targets, and everyone understood mostly, of course, that it's not that important like to destroy a tank. It's like the tank doesn't mean anything if you can't shoot it without the petroleum and ammunition. So the trucks themselves are just really easy to destroy.
They're soft targets, right?
It's like you don't even need like an RPG or things like that. You can just like shoot it out with like 50 BMG or something like that, and it will just explode. Especially if it has ammunition or petroleum, you can like use TNT, like basically anything. and it's much easier to destroy the target. And of course, if they like grouped up, one starts exploding, everything burning, and it's a great show, you know.
So you take out the logistics and the tanks are useless, kind of.
Yeah. Of course, still like they lose a lot of tanks on the battlefield, especially because the NLAWs and javelins are like super efficient in that. And this was also one of the things that really like turned the tide, that we had enough of NLAWs and javelins at the start, like to stop this assault, because it was insane. At some point, we were working as a mobile group, which means we may get an assignment from like the higher command, or someone ask for help or ask for things like that, or we have a contact, and then kind of like go in there. So we were working Irpin back in Kiev at the start, but we also went to like Boryanka and other cities around Kiev. So basically on the left bank. And at one point we just came there where our like anti-tank unit was making an ambush. And we were asking like, what's going on? How's the stuff? And they said, it's pretty normal. They just like 80 tanks just up there just came in yesterday. And we're like, what, 80? And they're like, yeah, 80. They like separated, like 60 went somewhere, and like the other ones are here. We're like here, they're like, yeah, like 800 meters from here.
Oh my God.
So we fly a drone, and there is basically a small village, and nearly in every house they have like a tank stationed there.
Next to the house, so you couldn't artillery them, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So they have these tanks, and then we think maybe we can like, you know, sneak up and then kind of like look with the drone that they hit BMPs by the tree line. So you can, because there was a big tree line, we said that we can, you know, group up and just like go and try to destroy a few tanks. And then we see this BMP, so like, it's not happening. Then I think our aviation worked on the other side where the 60 tanks went, and maybe some Bayraktars. I remember when there was a time they were really efficient at the start of destroying these columns and big stuff. But
what do you do if there's a village, there's 60 tanks, they're all masqueraded next to these houses? You don't want to destroy the houses. What are your options?
Yeah, the options is the ambush.
The ambush. When they move out, then you take them.
Yeah, and this is what basically happened. That ambush worked like perfectly fine. I think it was the ambush where it was really fortunate that the first tank that the guys in the ambush hit was the commander's tank.
Oh my God! Without commanders, Russians, they really...
Yeah. It was just a shit show after that. There's actually a video on internet of that. It's basically a big column. They like start in, and then the first tank gets hit and everything.
2-row column.
Yeah,
I've seen the video. It's beautiful.
Yeah, this is what's the ambush where we were like. With
that's the ambush.
Yeah,
that's a very famous video.
Yeah,
I remember
it's a really famous video.
It was like boom, boom, boom.
Yeah,
one
and
by
then
one.
they like started like panicking because like the first tank was the commander tank, and basically there's not much you can do if they station it in the village, and especially like in the start where they mostly like swarmed and there was like a lot of civilians.
Oh yeah.
Inside there, so it was a really, really tough situation. So basically only Ukrainian army only worked when they like really sure about that, what's gonna happen.
You really don't want to hurt civilians.
Yeah, and also your infrastructure. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's better to destroy an infrastructure than lose a war. You know?
Yeah, but Artem, thank you so much for your time and for your stories. It was a pleasure to listen to it, and I hope the viewer also enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Slava Ukraini.
Героям слава.